Two men journey to the bars and restaurants of Scandinavia to find amazing beers, always with the same question.
Hey, what's on tap?
It's time to find out.
Welcome to What's on Tap podcast. I am your host, Stefan.
I am your host, Martin.
And today we have beers. We actually got cherry beers.
Yes, I brought two cherry beers.
You did?
One that was recently released at Systembolaget, but
Yes.
we won't start with that one.
No.
We'll get back to that one.
Exactly.
We are going to start with a beer from let's call it from my cellar.
Yes.
A few years ago, I got it as a moving-in present, a housewarming present from a colleague. He had kept it in his cellar. And it's a Belgian Kriek Lambic beer. It's from the brewery Mort Subite.
Yes.
They mostly do these sweetened, sugary lambics.
Right. So, little lambic history. Back in the 70s, when lambics were kind of going out of fashion because nobody wanted to drink sour beers, the lambic community said, well, what if we made them sweet?
Yeah.
And in order to kind of reinvigorate the market for these beers, so then you had like Mort Subite and I would think Timmermans.
Yes.
Were kind of the two breweries on the forefront of this movement, where they started doing sugared, sugary sweet lambic style, and it kind of became its own subcategory in the lambic community. It's not as popular as it used to be.
It's pretty nasty.
Yeah, and it's kind of fallen away. But they're still, like I said, Timmermans and Mort Subite are still putting these things out.
But both of these breweries do put out lambics that are called Oude. Oude Oude Kriek, etc. And those are made with the old traditional way,
right?
Not sweetened. And that's what we have today. It's Mort Subite Oude Kriek Lambic from 2014.
Yes.
So it's 7 something years old.
Excellent.
That could be quite fun, I think.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because I do enjoy a good aged Kriek beer.
I do too.
I think the aging on a Kriek beer really just really rounds it, takes away a lot of those kind of harsher sour notes up front, and creates just a really smooth, super drinkable beer.
Yeah, and I've already smelled it. It's quite mild in its aroma.
It's kind of vinegary.
But yes,
sure.
Some vinegar, some cherry pits.
Yeah.
We'll see when we taste it.
All right, cheers.
So it's quite watery.
It is thin, but you still get kind of some cherry up front.
Yeah.
And then aftertaste is like tart. I mean, it's a bit of tartness to it.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like, you know, carbonated water has a slightly sour flavor to it.
Yeah, that's kind
of like that. It's like it's like cherry flavored carbonated water.
So it's 6.5 ABV. Mm-hmm. Best before 2025.
Oh, it has I can't imagine this getting much better from this point.
No, it's interesting because the breweries like Driefonteinen, they put a 20-year.
Oh, minimum, yeah.
And here they put 11 years for some reason. Like, sure, you can put 11 years, I don't mind. But yeah, Mort Subite, there's a reason why they aren't the highest esteemed lambic brewers.
Yeah, they're one of my bottom level kind of. Like Mort Subite, and then Timmermans is right above them.
Yes.
And then there's
because we always start with the Cantillon, Driefonteinen.
Right, yeah.
Boone is really good.
Yeah, Decam,
Tilquin.
Exactly.
And then you get into these weirder ones. And then there are the smaller ones that recently opened. They're
like Antidote and
they make sours, I think. I don't think they count them as lambics.
Okay. Were they more like kind of like Roth and doing the more he does just kind of mixes and doesn't really do anything himself.
So Bocke, they do call their beers lambics.
Yeah, right.
But they are blenders.
Right, they're blended because they buy the base gueuze from different.
And then we have Tommy Chef. That's the same thing. But I think Antidote brews their own beer. They just calls it sour.
Okay.
We'll need to check that out.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten the names of these newer lambic brewers. There was one that just had a white paint.
Something with a V, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, no, I remember what you're talking about.
But never mind. But Mort Subite is kind of always at the bottom when we start ranking, which is quite sad. Yeah,
and this it is kind of sad because I mean they've been around for a really, really long time, and I guess they're just kind of popular in the mainstream kind of market because this is very simple to drink. It's very easy, but it's just not particularly good.
It's not very challenging either.
You know what's sad? It's one of the things I noticed is when I was in Brussels, there are all these kind of old lambic bars, not like Cantillon, but like they only serve everything out of the
these ceramic jugs,
and ceramic mugs. I think of the one, and they're really hard to find because they're kind of like a door next to a Frites place, or it's down an alley or something. But the three of them that I knew of, all three had closed.
So it's kind of going out of style.
Well, I think that this was a COVID issue. I think COVID kind of killed it, and I think it just kind of, it just took them out.
Yeah, we have seen that with the rarer lambics that they have really become available online and through special releases now during COVID because that is the only way. I mean,
you got to have revenue, and you got to sell those things that are going to make money.
Yeah, so it's both a responsibility to earn money, but I know that both Cantillon and Driefonteinen, they carry kind of this the requirement for legacy. They need to keep it going. At least Driefonteinen is like such an inherited business, father to son, and now for the first time the head brewer isn't a De Belder family member, but he.
Yeah, I mean Cantillon's the same way. It
used to be Jean van Roy.
Yeah, and well, it was actually. I mean, they have. If you look in their history, it goes into like the Cantillon family started it, and it went from like great grandfather to father, and then it went from and then it went to the father of the person who runs it now. He married into it, and so he took it over from as the son-in-law, and then it went to it's gone to his son basically who runs it. It's still a family-run business there.
Definitely. So they can't go under. They can't close.
Right.
I mean, just they can't. They mustn't.
Right.
so doing whatever, and if that means selling rare beer online. Go for it.
I have no problems with that. I quite enjoy those online sales and finding those rare beers in the wild. So what do you give this Mort Subite Oude Kriek Lambic?
I want to be kind to it, but I probably shouldn't. It's somewhere around week 3.5.
I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so let's move on to the Swedish Kriek.
Exactly.
And what do we have here?
Yeah, so before the episode, when I presented this to Stefan, I called it a lambic and a kriek, but they don't actually say it on the label, they only say it on internet. So this is from the island of Gotland, outside of Sweden. It's from Snausarve Farm Brewery. And they've made some traditional beers, they've made some smoky beers, they've made some not so good beers. But now they have a series of, they call it on the label, a light and tart beer in a traditional Belgian style. They're really stepping around the words lambic and gueuze and kriek. So the series is called Söirli.
Okay.
Which is tart. Syrlig was a Swedish word,
Yes.
but Gotland has always had their weird words. So tart, let's call it that. On Untapped, the regular Söirli is a Lambics.
Yes.
And then they have different variants. And we have the Söirli Stain, which would be stone. So
Okay.
stone fruit.
Yeah.
Or
It's all checking out.
I think so. And it has cherries. And this is one is from 2020. So Snausarve Söirli Stain 2020. And it clocks in at 5.7% ABV. And when we just look at it, it looks more neon colored than the Mort Subite.
It's so much brighter than the Mort Subite. The Mort Subite is like a deep red, kind of more like what you expect from a Kriek kind of look. And this is a much lighter in color version of that. The smell, however, is really sweet and jammy.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know. It smells really nice. I mean, it's pleasant, but it doesn't make me think cherries.
No, I agree.
right.
Let's
Cheers.
start. Cheers.
That is quite pleasant. It's you definitely get kind of I see a little bit more of the pit in this.
Especially in the aftertaste.
Yeah. There's also a bit of a cereal kind of aftertaste too.
When you say cereal, you mean sweet, malty, bready.
Right, kind of bready. Like when I say cereal, I think if you like eat a mouthful of bran flakes or corn flakes or something like that. That kind of cereal kind of flavor. That's what I mean by that.
The initial flavor, the very first hit, and it's very, very short. It starts to strike the same notes as traditional Kriek beers. Maybe even like in the realms of 3F.
Yeah, and then it comes in, it's just kind of like Kriek, it's a little sweet, it's a little tart, and you kind of watch it and be like, oh, this is really good.
And then it disappears.
And then the aftertaste hits, you're like, no, this isn't rewarding.
So it's two very different experiences.
Yeah. I would say, unfortunately, for me, the aftertaste is quite off-putting.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame, because up front I was like, oh, wow, this is really nice. And then that weird aftertaste comes in, and it's just kind of like, ugh. It's probably, I would guess, from the yeast that they're using.
Yeah. The aftertaste is almost a little moldy. That dusty, moldy.
Yeah. Boy, I'm really conflicted on this one.
Yeah, me too. This is a tricky one.
Yeah. This is batch number 23. I don't know how many batches they've done that are out there, but maybe if you see this on the shelf, you think, oh, well, batch 23 wasn't the best. Maybe I want to try a different batch. So who knows? Maybe it's just each version gets its own. Like each of their sours is considered its own batch.
Maybe. I would be very interested to know. I don't think this is... I actually don't know when Snausarve started making beers. It's definitely before COVID, because I remember having Snausarve beers in like 2019-ish, but they were quite new then. So if it's like an overall batch number, which some breweries use,
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they hadn't made it farther than 23 when they got to 2020.
Yeah,
Or it's
probably.
bottled in 2020, and it's actually one of their first.
I would guess it's probably bottled in 2020.
And then it could be the 23rd beer they ever made.
So what do you give this one?
The first taste is so good, and the aftertaste is so bad.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, I was thinking 275, but
yeah.
I think because when you drink it again, you're like, oh yeah, that is pretty good, and then you can go like, oh, actually, so you drink a little bit more, so it kills that problem. And then if you have enough of it, you won't care anymore.
Exactly. Just keep drinking it, chug, chug, chug. Never get to the aftertaste, and then you only need to deal with the aftertaste once at the very end.
Yep. So I'll give it a 3 as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing these. At least we get to try. I'm very excited about always trying new things and old things.
Yeah, and also we got to expand a little bit on our Swedish tour.
Exactly.
I don't think we've had any Gotland beers on the show because the big brewery on Gotland is Visby.
Yeah.
We don't really have them on the show.
They're kind of a mass producer.
Yeah.
You can find Visby in all of the... If you go to a nice bar and they've got quote-unquote craft beer on tap, it's almost always Visby Bulldog and Visby Lager, which is actually quite a nice lager. I quite enjoy that one, but overall, not my favorite brewery. So, you can find us online at what'sontappodcast.com, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever you can find a fine quality podcast, you can find us. So until next time,
keep drinking, you dum-dums.